Hello, it's Dave at VTR. Whoa, look at the shine on this guy. That's right, today we're going to be talking about chrome, or more specifically, how to repair that old worn chrome. You see, back in the day, the toy companies would make heavy use of chrome to attract us in. Whoa, look at the chrome on this Micronaut. It's got a chrome head and even a gold chest plate. You can see why it really does make a difference. When new vac metallized chrome looks fantastic, but because it's so thinly coated, it dulls over time once it's been touched by many fingers, and eventually it will wear off and peel away completely. So we are going to test these 4 chrome paints to see which one gives us the best looking and longest lasting chrome effect. And we'll be using this brush to apply them and this airbrush. I've never airbrushed anything before in my life. I picked it up from Amazon for £50. This is going to be a good test. Let's get techie for a little bit. The most common way of applying this chrome would be through a vac metallized process. This plastic would be placed into a vacuum chamber, then a vaporized metal would be added, which condenses to form a very thin coating over the plastic. The most common metal would have been aluminium or aluminum for American friends, which would cause this shiny effect. Chrome was used across the board. You can see it on this Molotow here, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, even Action Force and Action Man with this Bullet Man here. Even appears on Mask as well, but probably the experts were the Japanese, using chrome in all sorts of toy lines. How are we actually going to test all of these paints? Because as well as the chrome paint, we also have this base coat from Alclad. It's called Gloss Black Base. It's supposed to give the chrome a really deep shine. We also have, from Alclad again, this top coat. It's called Clear Coat Gloss. My idea is to apply the base coat to 1/2 of each piece that we've got here. Then I'm going to apply the chrome paint across the 2 pieces. And then finally, I'm going to apply the gloss coat only to this bottom row of pieces. Now, if that made any sense at all, we should end up with 1/2 with just chrome paint and the other half with a base coat and the chrome paint. And then on this piece, we should end up with just the chrome paint and a top coat. And then finally, a base coat, the chrome paint and a top coat. Right, enough of this. Let's crack on. Okay, I've set myself up a temporary spray booth. I've masked up all the items. I've loaded the black gloss undercoat into this airbrush. Let's hope this does the job well. I've never done any airbrushing before, so let me know in the comments if you see any improvements that I can make. After a few days of drying, let's have a look at how this black undercoat has gone on. And I'm actually really pleased with this, considering, well, it's a cheap airbrush, but look at the result. Nice and shiny, and we'll see how the chrome goes over both the base coat and the untreated plastic. Let's start with the most widely used chrome out there, this Molotow. This is actually a refill. I'm going to pour some into this pot and brush it onto my plastic pieces. This is the only chrome paint I'm actually familiar with. I've got my own opinions about it, so I'm really interested to see how this compares to the others. Let's crack on. So here's the first coat, and I can already see an issue. Just look at that reaction with the base coat. That's not good at all. But as I always find when I try and brush on this Molotow, it never covers properly, so this is probably going to need another coat once it's dried. And I've got the same reaction on this piece as well. And you can also see the brush marks on the left hand side. Once this dries, I'll give it another coat, and yeah, we'll see whether those brush marks end up drying out. Next up, we have this Green Stuff World Chrome Metal Paint. I've seen this recommended on several Micronaut sites, so I'm looking forward to trying this one. Again, I'm going to pour it into this little pot and brush it onto our plastic pieces. Now I have to say, this paint has gone on a lot better than the Molotow with the brush. It is reacting though with the base coat. I'm going to let this dry and maybe it needs another coat, we shall see. Now we have our last of the brush on paints. This is Mirror, the most expensive of them all. I'm very intrigued to see what this is like. Once again, I'm just going to pour a little bit into the pot and brush it on. What I will say immediately about this paint is it covers incredibly well. I'm back at my spray booth, ready to apply this Alclad II chrome paint specifically for airbrushing. I used the same company for the base coat and I was very pleased with how that went on, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this chrome paint is like in an airbrush. I'm really enjoying using this airbrush. The instructions say to apply the chrome in several light coats, so that's what I'll do. I've applied 2 coats of the Alclad with the airbrush now. I'm really enjoying this process, although that second coat I may have laid just a little too thick. I'm still learning how to do all of this stuff. Obviously, the chrome isn't reacting with the base coat because they're both from the same company. And yeah, you can see the dividing line there. There's definitely a difference. Right, I'm just going to let this cure. And then we'll be on to the final phase, which is applying the top coat. Actually, before I apply the top coat, I thought I'd show you all of these pieces in their raw form so we can see what the chrome looks like. And I just want to talk a little bit about my experience of applying each of these different kinds of paint. Let's start with Molotow and Green Stuff World because, to be honest, it's so difficult to distinguish between them. The chrome effect on both of these is pretty damn good. You can see the reflection of my finger in both. In fact, they look identical. And actually, as I brushed these on, they kind of behave the same way as well. They don't brush on very well onto unprimed plastic. My approach was to lay it on really thick, and as it dries, it kind of self-levels, reducing the brush marks. Things don't always go to plan. Both the Molotow and this Green Stuff World reacted with the Alclad black gloss undercoat. And also, well, look at this mess here. I've had this with Molotow as well. If you try and apply a layer of the chrome paint and leave it to dry ever so slightly, and then attempt a second layer on top, well, you end up with this dull, silvery mess, and you can see all these horrible brush marks as well, which makes me think that Molotow and Green Stuff World is actually the same thing. I don't know, that's a guess. If anyone out there does know, leave me a comment. Overall though, this Molotow and the Green Stuff World, well, as you can see, they give a great result and I can understand why they're so popular. Right, let's move on to the expensive Mirror chrome paint. This is much more expensive than both Molotow and Green Stuff World, but I think you'll agree it's a very good result. Unlike the Molotow and Green Stuff World, this paint does apply very nicely indeed. The best result is to use multiple thin layers. Let's just do the mirror test. You can see my finger there. I would say it's not quite as reflective as the Molotow and Green Stuff World. I probably need to do a little bit more practice and perhaps apply a few more thin coats to get a really deep shine. Let's just compare it to the Green Stuff World. Yeah, that Green Stuff World look reminds me of me trying to paint skirting boards in just one thick coat because I can't be bothered to go around twice. It doesn't react with the black gloss undercoat, although I have come to the conclusion for brush and chrome paints, having a black gloss undercoat is pointless. But now I'm really excited to show you the results of this 50 quid airbrush with the Alclad II chrome paint. I f***ed up. This is more of a silver than a chrome. Oh dear. So what's the problem here? Well, I've laid down this chrome paint way too thick with my airbrush, and it's more of a sort of silver effect than chrome. You can see my finger there, but if I compare it to, say, this green stuff world, well, the green stuff world looks like a mirror in comparison. Yeah, this is just a dull silver. I know that this can be done much better, so I did it again. And here's the result, a deep, rich, reflective chrome. Very happy with this one. This was achieved by applying a couple of layers of the black gloss undercoat and then applying a couple of very light layers of the chrome paint. The black gloss just shines through that chrome. That's why you get this reflection. You can see it with my finger here. In fact, let's compare this to, say, the green stuff world. And now the green stuff world itself looks like silver. There's quite a contrast there. It's impressive. The finish is also very nice. There are obviously no brush marks. I'm quite astounded by what a £50 airbrush can do. The look and finish of these chrome paints is one aspect, but as we all know, chrome paint tends to have one weakness, and that's the finger. If you touch these chrome paints with your finger, they will dull no matter how long you leave them to cure. So I'm finally going to apply a top coat to half of these pieces, and then we can test to see how resilient they all are to the good old finger. My guess is that this is going to react with most of the chrome paints as we've seen with the undercoat, but let's test it out and see. To be honest, for the paints like the Molotow and Green Stuff World, I was expecting a reaction. As you can see on the right hand side, that chrome has just turned to silver. It's lost all of its shine. Oh dear. It's the same story even for the mirror chrome paint. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so bad, but again, you can just see that top coat has taken all the shine off and now it looks like silver. A real shame. But the real surprise is that the Alclad top coat has also reacted with the Alclad chrome paint. You can see on the right hand side, it's just turned silver. That's a real surprise. Look at that reflection on the left hand side though. That's still one hell of a chrome paint effect. I can only assume that there's another top coat that I'm supposed to use with this chrome paint. I'll do some research. As I say, this is all a learning exercise. But we still have this top row here that are untouched. In fact, all of these were painted 2 weeks ago and have had plenty of time to cure. So let's go one by one and test each of them to see how resilient they are to the finger. And we all know that this one is generally not that resilient, so let's give it a go. And we can already see, look at that. Yeah, that shine is gone already. Molotow, it doesn't matter how long you leave it to cure, I've always found that fingerprints will just dull it off immediately. Next we have Green Stuff World. I am convinced that this is the same stuff as Molotow. I did screw up the application here on the main body, but up here we still have some shiny chrome. So let's try it out. Exactly the same result as Molotow. Look at that, dulled off completely. Oh dear, I'm intrigued by this one. This is the mirror chrome paint, the most expensive of them all. As you can see, it's pretty good. It's got a good reflection, but let's see if it's resilient. Just having a look here. Nope, it looks like that's also dulled. Perhaps not quite as much as the Molotow and Green Stuff World, but yeah, that's definitely dulled. And you can clearly see the chrome paint on my thumb. I am cleaning my thumb in between each of these tests. Oh dear. Finally we have our Alclad II. It's such a deep reflective chrome effect. I really don't want to put my fingers all over this, but I've got to in the name of testing. Well, I'm actually really surprised. I don't think there's any difference. You can still see the reflection clear as anything there. Wow. That's more resilient than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would need a top coat. It probably does, to be honest. But actually, without the top coat, that's pretty damn impressive. Okay, so what are my conclusions? Well, if I'm going to be restoring chrome in the future, I'm most likely going to be using this £50 all-in-one airbrush. Doesn't even require a separate air compressor. I know it's not high-end, but for restoring chrome, it does a really good job, especially when I'm using this Alclad II chrome paint. One of the advantages of using an airbrush is that you can lay down multiple layers, so with that undercoat of black gloss with the chrome on top, you get a really deep, reflective chrome effect. It's quite astounding, really. Having said that, I'd still use the Molotow chrome paint if I'm touching up small areas of chrome. I'd use a paintbrush and apply a thick coat. That way, when it dries, you don't see those brush marks, but you still get a really good chrome effect. The green stuff weld, I still think it's very similar to Molotow. There is an airbrush version, so maybe I'll try that in the future. The mirror chrome paint, although expensive, I think would be very useful when covering large areas of plastic, especially if that plastic's got lots of detail in there. The mirror chrome paint applies really well with a brush, and you can apply thin coats and you get a good result at the end of it as well, and you'll be able to see that detail in the plastic. Now, the top coat failed, so I need to watch lots of modelers' YouTube videos, those with experience much more than me, and see if there's a solution out there that works on top of the Alclad II and maybe these other paints as well, because I think if we can solve that, we'll be able to fix the issue, which is that a lot of these paints are not resilient to fingerprints. Now, this has been a real learning exercise for me. I've loved using the airbrush. It's quite addictive, really. So I think in the future, I'm gonna have a go at airbrushing the Molotow, the green stuff weld, and the mirror chrome paint. And of course, with the airbrush, I should be able to apply a black gloss undercoat under each of these, and they should all hopefully give a nice deep reflective finish. This has been a fun exercise. I've learned all about different chrome paints, brushing versus airbrushing, top coats or the failure of top coats. So hopefully there's been something useful in this video that might help you with your own chrome restorations. There's lots more for me to try out, so there'll definitely be a part 2 at some point in the future. Until next time, all I've got left to say is stay safe, everyone, and cheers. Now, where else can I chrome?
We don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going. Don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long.
Thanks for making it this far. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, or try some of these other VTR classics. Until next time, stay safe and cheers.